Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the People Success Circle podcast. I'm joined this week by my friend, Becky Davidson, who is an expert in community and products. Thank you so much for joining me, Becky, and taking the time to be here with me today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Excited to chat about community.
Yes, as you and I talked about, it really is important for employees to have community at work and then also customers to feel a sense of community. And so I consider you the expert in the customer community side and me the expert in the employee community side. So bridging that today in this conversation is just going to be so insightful for me as well. I'd love to start out by asking you if you could briefly walk us through your work experience and tell us about what led you to being a community and product expert.
Okay. So I love to say that I started my career as an architect because I went to architecture school and then I did a full pivot into working in tech. So I worked in architecture for a little bit and then I moved out to Silicon Valley and I wanted to learn. I was really into technology. Like even my thesis in architecture school had like an app component to it. So I think I've always had this like interest. And so I went out, I learned UX design, which essentially helps us figure out what we should build, how to really serve our customers and understand their pain points and develop a solution that really is the right solution. Like I talk a lot about building the right thing. So I did this boot camp school and then earned my certification, started freelancing, and eventually started working at an agency that did custom software development for everything from startups to Fortune 500 brands. And while I was there, a lot of the company grew a lot. I was one of the first 50 employees, pretty small. And then by the time I left, we had gone through an acquisition. Now there's like thousands of employees. And when I started, I was just like a junior product designer. And when I left, I was a principal level product strategist. So a lot of growth happened really fast just because we were such a fast growing company. Projects I worked on that I really loved the most had some kind of community element to it. So I'll give you a couple examples. One was an app that helped families on military bases connect with each other and connect with their local community because they were always moving around.
Yes.
It was great.
I love that. I love that. I think you know that I'm a military wife. My husband's a retired Marine. And so that is so valuable. That's such a cool project. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still out there today. It's called Base Connect. And then another project was to help aging adults or seniors keep their independence longer. And so with that, there was like this community element of creating their family that could contact the senior using special applications and all kinds of different like sort of Internet of Things products, which smart devices, if you will, in their home. So that was really cool. But then I started working on a lot of these like Fortune 500 company, big projects. And I was like defining the products and I was leading the development teams and it was a different type of work. And I missed that like original early stage community startup type work. So I think I just started pursuing, I didn't know at the time I was chasing community, but I totally was like in my side gig work. Like I picked up a teaching job at a General Assembly where I did my certification. I started teaching visual design and user experience design. So those were 10-week cohort-based courses that were part-time. So I was teaching at night for 10 weeks at a time. And I started joining a bunch of different memberships. I joined Section School, Scott Galloway's company. I joined Boss Babe, like to really understand early stage entrepreneurship. And I joined Jay Klaus's membership. And so I just kind of was like totally diving in. And when Boss Babe posted a head of product job, I had turned on that like LinkedIn notification to tell you. So I turned on that notification, I remember I was on a walk with my sister and my husband and I got the notification and like that whole walk, all I thought about was my application. And I went home and I like recorded a video and like, anyways, I ended up getting that job. So I was head of product at Boss Babe for a year, managing their membership, their programs. And then I left and started consulting, and now I've built an agency where we design, build, and manage community products. So memberships, programs, anything that's community related. And most of our clients are education-based creators, like and creator-led brands.
Okay. I could totally see, though, as we're talking, a company hiring you to help with like a membership slash, even if it's free membership for employees as well. So much of what you do transitions over. So that actually leads me to my next question, which is when did you realize that community was like the missing ingredient in a successful company?
So I had this huge aha moment while I was working at Boss Babe. I was doing a research project to like really get to know our members. And I was looking at the data around the revenue they were making and how long they had been in business. And for me, I saw a huge disconnect. I was like, they should be more successful than this by now. And so we were teaching them a lot of marketing skills at that company. And yes, there was like, here's your offer creation workshop and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that they didn't teach those skills, but we weren't teaching product development the way I had learned it working in tech. And so I saw an opportunity for entrepreneurs to understand how to build products in a methodical way where we do customer research. We take time for ideation. We don't just jump to the first thing we think of and build that. So for me, I see this opportunity for entrepreneurs to build better products, but also to understand how community plays into that because they're not thinking about community. And so I think, honestly, like I was just seeing a lot of business owners not have the success that they should. And that was like the flag for me. And then the other thing I'll say is that companies, even large scale, like Fortune 500 companies that I was working with, they were building without talking to their customers and building the wrong things. And so for me, that's what community is about. It's like you want to connect with your customers, connect with your people, and then build the thing that they actually need and bring them along for the ride. It's like a co-creation journey. And if you're not following that process, like you're not building community and you're not building a product that's going to work.
Right. So I think you know, Becky, firsthand that I have learned that somewhat the hard way. You know, I've had my business for 4 years and I just recently started approaching product development in the way that you are teaching and just went to your retreat, which was amazing. And just when you talk about so often we build a product or we create an employee program that we might think is what they ask for or what they want or what they really need. And in turn, it doesn't have the effect, the positive effect that we're looking for because we didn't ask. And so just personally in my business, I've learned doing the research has really helped me understand my product. And it's the same in a workplace, right? The employees want to be heard. We need to talk to them and find out what's really important to them. And so often it's a disconnect, right? So often it's I think my customers want this, or I think my employees want this. But when we really peel back the onion and we ask them and we do the research, different things come up.
Yeah, it's actually, there's some theory from Six Sigma called the 5 whys, and we want to get 5 layers deep to get a real understanding. So there's 2 lessons I like to teach on this. Like one is we need to follow up with a lot of why to get to the deeper root cause, deeper understanding of a problem versus like listening to the surface level thing the customers say. Like, I can't find the button or the button isn't big enough. Like, what are they actually looking for? What does it mean? Like, go deeper. And then the other thing is that you can't ask your customers directly what they want. You have to understand what their problems are, and then you can come up with ideas to solve that. And I think the Henry Ford quote really, really explains this well. He said, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. So we're not inventing faster horses, but we are inventing a way to get from point A to point B faster than a horse.
Right, right. Absolutely. I love that quote. I've heard you say that a few times. I feel like I need to write it down to put on my bulletin board because I think that's so wise. I love it. So what are some of the mistakes that you see businesses making when it comes to trying to build community or trying to elevate their customer service? What are some of the common mistakes you see?
The number one thing is probably like slap a community offer onto something as an add-on or bonus feature when like it's not just some added thing that floats on the outside. It should be very integrated into whatever the product experience is. And even like internally in companies, like it shouldn't be an afterthought or something that nobody logs into. It should be an integrated part of the company culture that people are using it. And connecting with one another. And so that's one thing. I think another is trying to just make some sort of like beautiful forum or like designing some sort of community, but not putting a lot of intention behind connection, because at the end of the day, community only exists if people are connecting with one another. And so that piece has to be prioritized. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I'll get to that when I can like have the time to connect people. And it's like, well, what's the
Mm.
point of building it
Yeah.
in the first place?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
not
those
like
are,
when if you build it, they will come. It's like if you build it, you better figure out a way for them to connect because it's not going to just happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It has to be
Yeah.
very curated and thoughtfully
Hmm.
designed.
Hmm. So, what are some of the best practices that you have seen in your work that are characteristics of a thriving community?
A thriving community has people are connecting and they're coming
Uh-huh.
back to it again and again. Like it has this sticky factor. And so I
Okay.
like to compare this to like I have an Aura ring, like I'm obsessed
Hmm.
with my health data.
Yeah.
Over time, the longer I have this ring, the longer I am, or the more I'm obsessed with logging into my app and seeing my data, the more likely I am to keep wearing this ring, is what I'm trying to say. Because all of my data is compounding in this app. And as I log in, it's getting to know more and more about me and it's making recommendations and it has all of this stuff, right? But it's like that in community, or it's like that with any product where we want it to be super sticky. People want to keep coming back to it and having that, like in community, I call this like the feeling of home and belonging. Like they
Hmm.
can come back to it. They feel like they belong. They feel safe. There's psychological safety, it's secure, whatever those qualities are very important. And then on top of that, there is again that thoughtfully curated connection opportunity so that
Hmm.
people are speaking to one another. I think there's like a misconception that super high engagement and lots of messaging needs to be happening for a community to be thriving or successful. But really
Hmm.
people just need to log in, like want to be there and connect with one another. And that's okay if it's not like a daily posting situation.
Yeah, I think that's really wise because, I think sometimes when we think of building membership and increasing connection, we think, do I have time for that? And I think the quality of it is just as important as the frequency.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also some kind of like shared goal or transformation. So it's not just like community is like this added thing and like, oh, yeah, you can
Hmm.
come here and connect. And yes, connection is important. I just harped on why it's so important. But there also
Hmm.
needs to be some kind of like shared goal and transformation people are working towards in order for
Hmm.
them to come together to share their experience and practice together, a community of practice and
Hmm.
establishing that. And also, like they're seeing checkpoints and they're working towards something along the way. That's why I love working with education products, because
Hmm.
there's like a really clear roadmap of, okay, you're working towards your knowledge in this thing that's going to help you accomplish this outcome. And like, here's your checkpoints and your roadmap along the way.
I see. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And to tie that into the people side of the business, we are at a crisis with employee engagement. Employee engagement globally and in the US is the lowest it's ever been. 32% is what Gallup estimates is the level of engagement with the workforce in the US, which is actually worse than it was during the pandemic when we were distracted by so many things. So I love what you were saying about community being people who are also working towards a common goal and a shared goal, shared interest, because that relates to work too, right? Like we want to come to work to get every day and be part of something that we're committed to. And that increases employee engagement. So that community link is just so clear on both sides.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, at least at a company, you're definitely working towards shared goals, right? Like everybody wants
Sure.
the company to be successful. Ideally, there's really clear objectives and KPIs they're working toward. And so even within a team culture, you can have that community piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's huge. And when it's missing, it doesn't matter what goals are written down or KPIs are written down, people don't have the buy-in to work towards it. Becky, if a company has never invested in community, either through their customer base or their employee base, like where would a company start? Where would they start when they say, gosh, I'm listening to this podcast. This makes a lot of sense to me. How do I get started?
I like to think about especially for companies with your customers, it's all about connecting with your primary customer. And so almost like identifying, and Mindy, we did this recently together, but identifying who's your primary persona in your business that you're targeting that you want to prioritize
Mm-hmm.
building for. And really like bringing together a group of people that fall into that category and bringing them together to learn from each other, but also give you feedback on the product. I know like they did this at AppSumo as they were scaling, where they had a Slack channel that they had some of their community members in that would be able
Okay.
to like give them feature feedback, like connect with one another, share stories. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for larger organizations to think about how they bring their customers into the business, co-create with them. So that's like one category. If you're building some kind of like educational business, then it really starts with just one-to-one conversations with your customers. That's a great way to start building community, because as you connect with people one-to-one, you start to recognize who you can connect to each other. So I think
Mm-hmm.
part of like the first step is identifying who's going to own this, because it can't just be an afterthought or a tiny side project. It's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so just recognizing like, we're going to invest in community. This is important here. And this is what that looks like. And at large organizations, you need those people internally
Mm-hmm.
to run this. And there's a lot of community managers out there that work inside of companies and larger organizations. I mean, if you look at most successful e-commerce businesses, they have some kind of community practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my thing, but there are a lot of people out there that do that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I actually am part of a membership, and she just hired a community manager, and I've been able to kind of see that role played out. It's really interesting to see. So when you look at your business, tell me about a story or a success story in general about a company who's doing community really well.
I recently audited our mutual friend, Seppi Tabibian's
Yeah.
membership.
Yeah.
So she was at the retreat we were both at, and she has a community called She Hit Refresh, and she helps women that are 30 and over move abroad. And her business is awesome. And so she started out with a Facebook group that was like 15,000 people in a Facebook group.
Mm.
And it was a free Facebook group. And so she's like, what do I do with these people? And
Yeah.
she ran a live program, and then she realized that people needed more ongoing support. And that really, when you're serving a long-term transformation, a membership is a great model. A community
Mm-hmm.
business is a great model because you can serve them over time along their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so Seppi built her membership, She Had Refresh, to help women get ready and move abroad and go through every single stage that there is.
I
And
love that.
so I did not help her build it, but we audited it. So we gave her feedback on what could be better. And honestly, like I told her, I was like, this was one of the hardest audits I've done, because you are already doing everything so well. So she has incredible onboarding. I'll give you my categories. She has incredible onboarding. That's number one, like making community members feel very welcomed. They know how to engage. They understand how to participate. That's number one. She's crushing that. Number two is programming. So there's programming that is going like events that are always happening that help people with what they need help with. So she's looking at what are community members talking about? Like, oh, I'm struggling to figure out what kind of job I should get. So then she brings in an expert to like help talk about like job opportunities and options in different parts of Europe. Like, she's responding to what the community needs and then building that into the programming, which is like chef's kiss. It's very good. She also has a curriculum for them to work through. So it's really clear exactly what steps they need to go through. There's resources. So I always say I love when community has backbone curriculum, which is why people buy, programming that keeps them engaged and helps them be successful, and then community aspects from like a forum standpoint, a connection standpoint, which helps with retention. And that's why people stick around. So when you have those three elements, that's like the perfect community offer.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think her of a business is so cool to help women move abroad. You mentioned that she used a Facebook group. There are so many technical platforms now for communities, and both within an organization, like through an HRIS or an HR information system, but also there are other platforms designed just for this. Can you walk us through your advice for choosing a platform and tell us a little bit about the options out there?
Yeah. I always like to say I'm platform agnostic. I'm going to recommend the best platform for the situation that a client's in. I'll say that Seppi she does have a free Facebook group, but her membership's actually hosted on Mighty Networks, which is one of the options, which is great because it has community forum, events, and coursework all in one place. I will say that for that kind of model, my preferred platform is Circle because it has a
Mm-hmm.
more simple user experience, which, as we talked about earlier, like my training in UX design
Yes.
makes me very picky about making sure there's not too many clicks to get something. And like, I want to make sure there's really good ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
So Circle right now is my recommendation for most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
However, like Seppi's membership is working and I'm not going to recommend like a platform change for her for sure.
Right. Right.
There's a couple of others out there that are like newer to the market that have less feature functionality than Circle, but definitely work for early, stage, which one is School with a K, Skool.
Okay.
And then another is MemberUp, which is really similar to Circle, but there's some less functionality, but it's a lot simpler and faster to set up. So that it has that going for it and it looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say one of the most important things today is like, and this goes for internal companies too, is just making sure that it's accessible and easy to use and they can get to it on their phone. And so, Mindy, like, it might be better for an internal company that's maybe using something like Slack to have certain Slack channels that are like company wide that build community than have like forum aspects in an intranet because people are less likely to log into it. So that's something to consider, but there can always be internal platforms. And actually, there's a really cool platform called Tightknit that uses Slack. And then I think it's nice for bigger companies because you basically like allow the community or the employees to still speak to each other on Slack, but then you can access archives, calendar of events, and anything else you really want to put on the website itself. So yeah, that's a nice connection. But there's a lot of options out there. My best advice I can give is to just make a list of requirements, understand what's really needed, and do some testing to see which platform feels like the right one for you.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said, Slack. I know a lot of employee resource groups use Slack channels and things like that. I think that is an option. There really are so many options. And I think, like you mentioned, there are new ones coming out all the time and even new features on existing applications. So I love the advice that you said that it needs to be accessible from their phone. And oftentimes, I'm a LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And I wish their group function were even as good as the Facebook one, because from a professional standpoint, it makes sense to use that as a group function, but they're not there yet. Maybe they will be someday. But you've given us a lot of really good examples. You mentioned that you have been part of a lot of memberships. Tell me about one that stands out to you that has just been a great experience for you as a member.
Hands down, that would be Jay Klaus's membership. It's called The Lab and it's for professional creators. So I've been a member for a few years and I can't imagine not renewing. He's always making the experience better. There's really amazing people in there. I think a few things that make it so great are that, again, like it's all about connection. There's really great ways to meet people. He does little mastermind facilitation so people can join a mastermind. They're self-facilitated, but he helps organize them based on your goals. So I have a mastermind right now with like 7 other people that are building memberships, which is great. There's a lot of emphasis on just customer experience and making sure people have what they need, like co-creating with the community. And most of all, like, yeah, again, lots of opportunity for connection. Just this year, he added an in-person event. It's at cost, so we're paying for it, but it's like barely any money. And we're all meeting up before Craft and Commerce in Boise. I think there's like 30 people going out of his 300-person membership or something. So not a bad turnout for like flying out for a retreat
Yeah.
for it's 2 days and it's very affordable and I'm excited for that experience. So, and that's new this year. I've been in it for a couple years now. So yeah, he's always adding new things. He's always getting feedback from the community. I've learned a lot about how to give advice to my clients based on just being a member of his community.
Right. And that's why I asked the question, because I think just it's so important for us to experience community as a business owner or as a leader in general. And so I love that you're practicing what you're preaching and that community isn't just important for the companies that you help, but it's also been impactful for you as well. Becky, as we wrap up the call, I would love to have you tell the listeners how they could get in touch with you or how they could start working with you if this sparked that for them.
Yeah, if you need help building community or you have a community and you want my eyes on it, you can check out my agency. It's affinitycollective.co. We can give Mindy all the links to the show notes. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Becky Pearson Davidson. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram too at BuildWBecky.
Awesome. I love it. And so I will include all that in the show notes. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. It's been enlightening for me, and I'm sure it has been for the listeners too.